Ellie Hanlon is growing her first garden. Not only that, since she hails from Florida and then Brooklyn, she tackled plants and Texas Tough at the same time. At least, when she and husband L.B. Dio bought their house in 2009, they did inherit amended soil from the previous owner's vegetable garden.
There had been a period of maybe 8 months where the house had been vacant. And so weeds had taken over, and there were sunflowers maybe 14 feet high, and the stems, I don't even think you could call them stems, they were like tree trunks. They were huge. It was a little overwhelming.
Her good friend, Chloe Serwinka, an architect and gardener, came to assist.
So she came down here and spent about 10 days. We hadn't even moved into the house yet, but we came over here every day and measured and sort of like watched where the sun was hitting, and that's how the garden was planned.
Ellie wanted a total garden experience where roses and perennial flowers mingle with food for the kitchen. Instead of the former rows, they designed beds framed with scavenged rocks and mulched pathways.
Even though I knew I wanted to do vegetables, I still wanted it to be kind of a pretty garden. And I think rows are nice, but they're more for efficiency. And so I wanted something where you could walk around, see different things, and just sort of explore a little bit more. It was hard to move around when it was just rows. So that first winter of 2009, we put cardboard down and covered it with mulch to sort of kill all the grass and the weeds that had grown up. And then that was also when we put in the first winter garden. And so we had lettuce, collards. Tried to do some Brussels sprouts, that didn't work, but we had broccoli. It was amazing. And even though it was sort of crazy looking because everything was growing up with cardboard around it, it was still delicious.
Warm season crops thrive in an organic regimen too. Along with fresh picks for dinner, Ellie learned how to can and preserve for the first time. She also wants to feed the wildlife in her new home and see them up close.
Well, I knew that the borders, I wanted those to attract butterflies and hummingbirds, and I felt like those would be the areas where we wouldn't be growing things that would change with every season.
And flowers bring on the bees to pollinate her crops.
There have been some birds visiting that have been sitting on the Swiss chard and eating the bugs off of it. And I thought, oh, how wonderful. So I looked into my Texas bird book, and I found that they're the house sparrow. Thought it was this exotic bird, but it was the house sparrow.
Along with that natural pest control, many birds love the now tamed sunflower volunteers that also act as a trap crop for tomato stink bugs.
So I often come over here in the morning after walking the dog, and so I'll have his leash with me, and it has the dog bags attached to it. And I was sitting over there by the pond one morning enjoying my coffee, and I looked over and I saw a leaf on one of the sunflowers covered. There must have been 50 or 60 stink bug babies. And so I just went over with the dog bag and grabbed the leaf and tied it up and tossed it in the trash.
To fend off soil-borne tomato nematodes and nutrient deficiency, Ellie rotates crops.
And they started up here on the north end, and I've been moving them south each time.
Later, she added an anchor to signify the central path. The arbor's practical job is to support cucumbers, seeded in mid-spring. Ellie's tactic in 2012 was one she learned early on.
On one side, I had Armenian cucumbers, which I guess aren't really cucumbers, they're more in the gourd family, and those really could withstand the heat and the drought. So I planted those again on the west side, and then straight eights on the east side, hoping that they'll get a little bit of the shade from the Armenian cucumbers.
In 2010, she installed a stock tank pond that gives the wandering garden a place to stop and reflect. Filled with plants and fish, it doesn't take much care.
And it's just been really fun. I like to sit out by it and drink my coffee in the morning.
That's when she'll turn on the drip system if necessary. She set it up on 2 main controls to serve each side of the garden.
Each bed is on a separate valve, so if there isn't anything growing in a bed right now, or if it's something that doesn't need water at that moment, I just turn off the valve and don't even worry about it. It's very precise watering. It's a drip system, so it's going straight where the plants need it, into the soil. There isn't a lot of water being blown around since it's at the ground level. And I can also adjust it as needed. I also just last week, actually, I hooked up a fertilizer reservoir for my drip irrigation system, and I filled that with fish fertilizer. And so we'll see how that works.
For hand watering, she taps from the linked rain barrels. She also uses their water for her patio plants, including fragrant summertime evening bloomers like 4 o'clocks and inviting white moonflower to scent their after-hours patio downtime.
I bought stock tanks and filled them with rocks and soil, rocks on the bottom for drainage, and I drilled holes.
Miniature ponds complete the refreshment on a warm summer evening. Along with fresh food and meeting a new challenge, the garden's been a neighborly launch pad for Ellie, LB, and Presto.
We had a trading group where one of our neighbors with chickens offered free, wonderful eggs in exchange for homegrown vegetables. We also had another member who made soap, beautiful organic soap, and so we would trade, and I also was lucky enough to get some poppy seeds from one of my neighbors. And these poppies are really thick and frilly. They almost look like roses. I've never seen poppies like them before. And I asked her recently where she got the seeds. She said that she had gotten them from Mr. Crutchfield on Avenue G 30 years ago. And she has been planting them, and sometimes she'll throw in some other poppy seeds that she's purchased or gotten from a friend. And so they've just developed this new strain of poppy that we're calling Hyde Park poppies.
Follow Ellie's step-by-step experience as a new gardener on her blog, Mostly Weeds, where she turned weeds into wonder.